Hello everyone and welcome once again to Physical Media Forever, the YouTube series where I show off my Blu-ray collection. Lately I've been looking for something that is just light and fun and funny and heartwarming and romantic and goofy and also thrilling. There are not many movies that fit that description, but I am here to tell you that if you want to put on something in order to just have a great time and laugh and maybe even cry and just feel swept up in something, you could do much worse than Billy Wilder's Some Like It Hot. Yesterday was Marilyn Monroe's 100th birthday, or at least it would have been 100th birthday had she still been with us. And so I put this movie on. This is my Criterion 4K release of it. I bought this movie after only seeing it once, almost 2 years ago now. And this is the first time I've actually checked out the disc. As you can see behind me, it is loaded with special features, of which I will tell you plenty about. But I just have to say, this movie put me in such a good mood, in such a good headspace. I laughed throughout the entire thing. If you've never seen it before, it is a highly comical, highly absurd farce wherein two jazz musicians who are struggling for money. One of them is a compulsive gambler. They are played by Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, both absolutely dynamite in this movie. They witness a mob hit, a mafia hit. They see these guys gunned down in a garage and are chased away, and they have to skip town. And they're jazz musicians. They're down on their luck. They don't have any gigs. The only gig they can possibly take that is going to get them out of town is with an all-girls orchestra, an all-women's orchestra, for a job in Florida. And so they have to cross-dress. They have to dress up like women and do full faces of makeup, pretend to be women in order to join this band. And as you can imagine, hijinks ensue. The lead girl in this band, who plays ukulele and sings for the group, is of course played by Marilyn Monroe. Her character's name is Sugar Cane. There's not a lot of nuance in this movie. I'll just go ahead and say that. It's pretty on the nose. And Billy Wilder is kind of a director who doesn't really have much time for nuance, or he's not really diving into deep issues in his movies, or especially in this movie. It's about what kind of hilarious scenarios can we concoct, how can we use Marilyn Monroe's star power to maximum effect, how can we use Jack Lemmon's comedic powers to maximum effect, how can we use Tony Curtis's matinee idol status? And I tell you, this movie just, it gets right to it. I did not enjoy it any less a second time. In fact, in the accompanying booklet to this film, you got a nice, good shot of, still shot of Marilyn on the front there. And as you open it up, it's got a nice little fold-out pattern with some more shots of Marilyn and information about the transfer. Anyway, what I was getting at is that the essay, How to Have Fun, by the great author and film historian Sam Wasson, is really about that specific thing. He is talking about this movie in the sense that you get it right away. It's immediate. Your enjoyment of it, the communication of the ideas are immediate. He says that it is, in fact, the opposite of an acquired taste. You don't enjoy it any more or less the second time. You don't bring anything new to it necessarily later in life. Sam Wasson argues that this movie, it's all right there on the screen from the very beginning. And I would say I do mostly agree with him. I think, look, there's all kinds of interesting things to say about the gender politics of this movie, and plenty of incredibly well-educated writers and critics have written and talked about this much better than I am ever going to be able to do. So I'm not even going to comment on it, other than to say that I don't think Billy Wilder was necessarily trying to comment on gender politics either. I think he just thought that these two actors dressing in women's clothes were funny to him. And that's how the movie plays. It plays up, what are the actual real life situations that these two are going to get themselves into under this ruse. How long can they maintain the ruse? At the center of this movie is a beautiful love story between Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe. He pretends to be another character, a millionaire who claims to have a yacht in order to woo her. because she's looking to settle down. She's looking for a rich man. So he's playing two roles. Jack Lemmon's character is absolutely freaking out about all of this. I have to say Jack Lemmon in this movie is just swinging for the fences. He is unbelievably funny. He's an unbelievably natural at pretending to be a woman in this film and getting along with the other girls. There's a very great scene where they start a party in his bunk and there are like 15 girls trying to pack themselves into the bunk on the train when they're on the train. Just phenomenal, funny, heartwarming, beautiful movie that I really needed at this time in my life, frankly. I'll tell you about some of the special features that are on this disc. Firstly, we have some behind the scenes kind of making of featurettes. These were not done at the time, they were done much later. So you have some archival footage from the set, but you also have lots of these talking heads interviews, like this one with Billy Wilder right here. I just saw Hugh Hefner on that screen. Was not aware that he was in it. So there is a sort of making of behind the scenes done in 2001. There's some stuff done in 2006. The disc really runs the gamut of supplementary materials culled over a long period of time. This film was released in 1959, so obviously at the time, making ofs and behind the scenes and featurettes weren't really a thing as far as movies went then. There is an audio commentary from film scholar Howard Suber. That's from 1989. There is a full Dick Cavett show on this disc, a full hour-long show where he interviews Billy Wilder. Billy Wilder is his main guest on that show, and they talk at length about his entire career. I watched a little bit of it, and that's quite fascinating. I've grown to really appreciate Dick Cavett's work as far as talking to filmmakers and the kinds of people he was interested in when he had a talk show way back when. There is a conversation between Tony Curtis and Leonard Maltin, the famous film critic. There is a television interview that Jack Lemmon did in the 80s for a French program, and there's even a radio interview from 1955 with Marilyn Monroe, so you can actually hear her speaking a little bit on the film. She's mostly speaking about her kind of icon status and her status as a sex symbol and all of these other things. I keep seeing Hugh Hefner pop up on here, and it's it's really bizarre. And of course the essay included in the booklet. So this is the Criterion 4K of Some Like It Hot. I even quite like the interior of the box. Just a nice shot of these two. I mean, if you've not seen this film, please seek this out. I believe it is probably streaming on HBO Max or another service that has access to the Turner Classic Movies library. HBO Max does have access to that, so you can probably find it on there. I would even recommend blind buying this. If you are the kind of person with disposable income and you like occasionally blind buying a film, that is to say, buying it having never seen it, this is one that will not disappoint. I don't know a single person I've ever met who dislikes this film. Again, I know there is probably a lot of interesting conversation to be had around the gender politics, but this film is not interested in that. It's playing for the absurdity of situational comedy, and it is also a gangster movie, and it's also a love story and kind of a musical. There are many musical numbers. They're jazz musicians, right? So they're playing music in Chicago and then later in Florida. It has some of the best lines of dialogue you'll just ever hear, delivered in such a perfect way. There's a featurette on here that talks about how the last line of the film, which is when Jack Lemmon finally reveals that he is a man to the character Osgood, who has fallen for him, who is the guy who actually owns the yacht, and he says it to him, and Osgood's character says, "Well, nobody's perfect," and that is just one of the best lines in any comedy you'll ever hear, and it's the last line of the film. They actually initially thought that line was quite weak and very flat and didn't think that it was going to play, and then it tore the house down. This film actually didn't do all that well in its earliest previews and its earliest screenings, and Billy Wilder went in and cut just one scene out. He cut only 1 minute out of the movie, one of the train car sequences, and apparently that turned the whole thing around and people started to get it. I can't say enough good things about it. Some Like It Hot, Billy Wilder, Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, Marilyn Monroe. This is the Criterion 4K. It's a real gem. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. If you like this kind of video, I have many more where this came from. That's it for me. Until next time, happy viewing.